Hey there, Internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week we have Cameron Abbott back on the show. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, nerds? Time to crack open a cold one.
What do you got there?
It is a Game Fuel, Blue Game Fuel.
Game Fuel? I didn't, it may have just been the, Discord cutout, because I didn't hear, a fizzy can opening, crackle. It just, so I was like, does he just have, a flat thing of water in a can or something?
I mean, no, it's true. It because the way that Game Fuel tops pop, they don't have it's actually really cool. Game Fuel's can design, because it's, in my opinion, it's way better than any other can design I've ever seen. Because rather than just the tap that pops open in the hole in the aluminum, it actually has a plastic seal over it, so it actually stays fresher longer.
Okay.
It's an intricate thing. You pop it open and then you slide it back and then you drink from it. And then when you're done drinking from it, you slide it back down, and then it has a little latch thing that pops into a hole that then keeps it sealed.
Okay then. That definitely sounds belabored, but that's fair.
I mean, it's awesome, because it also means that if it tips over, it doesn't spill everywhere.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. A little bit of housekeeping for the show. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review the podcast everywhere you can. If you're feeling extra generous, you can always support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite, just like all of our wonderful monthly Patreon producers have. We've got Pam and Bev Larson, my mom, Sherry Starkey, Logan's mom, Teresa Wilkinson, and myself, Trevor Starkey, as our Patreon producers. So shout out to all of them, and shout out to Aunt Pam and Grandma Bev. There were the first ones for me. Let's dive right on in, kind of, to the topic of the show for you, Cam. Obviously, I would say Overwatch League has been. I was up 2:30 or something a couple nights ago and just saw you doing a flurry of tweets.
Yeah.
So how's that been going?
It's good. I mean, Overwatch League playoffs are happening right now. Earlier this weekend, it was the play-ins. Friday/Friday night were the play-ins. So teams that, it's difficult because what's going on right now because of COVID-19. They split the divisions into two kind of regions. You have the APAC, Asian Pacific region, which is all of the Asian teams, plus London Spitfire and New York Excelsior moved their organizations over to Korea for the pandemic, which was a massive undertaking by them to do that. So, and it's interesting because the Vancouver Titans were supposed to do that, but did not do it. Bear with me for a moment. My thing was beeping at me to plug it in, my headset. So Vancouver, and this is interesting because earlier in the season, Vancouver as an organization decided that it was, for whatever reason, too expensive, too problematic, too much of a hassle, whatever their reason was, rather than support their players who had moved back to Korea, because before COVID-19 really hit, and travel bans were instituted and travel regulations, quarantine things were instituted, it was a break in the season. It was between, they were still doing the home and away games. There was going to be a big set of, homestand games in China and in South Korea. And so a lot of teams were over there, either because they were on break. The North American teams, London and New York, were on break during that time. And so a lot of them had gone back to Korea to, visit family. And because both teams are pure Korean rosters. So you have COVID-19 hits. A lot of players there's only one New York player who was in North America at the time because he was getting, he had a dentist appointment. And so he stayed in New York a little bit longer than everybody else. But as soon as they could, and of course being a New York-based organization during the height of the pandemic, once they could get, basically New York realized, hey, most of our staff and team is Korean. Let's just move everything over to Korea because it's going better for them than it is in New York City right now. And so the organization like supported them in doing that. Vancouver did not do that, and instead released their entire roster and picked up a brand new one. It was this massive controversy that happened earlier this year, but most of the players actually, and this is where a reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of these players were part of a Contenders, which is like the A League, AAA League of Overwatch League, were part of a Contenders Championship team, like legacy team called Runaway. And they became the Vancouver Titans, and then from Vancouver Titans, Vancouver made some really rough cuts to some members before the season started. And then even after that, there was after they released everybody, the team kind of went. A couple players got picked up in a couple different places, but a good core of the roster got picked up by the Washington Justice, which was in desperate need of some more players, like more skilled players, after two of their players left to go play Valorant on professionally. So there's just been all sorts of ups and downs and crazy stuff happening. COVID-19 completely changed everything. And for a while it felt like Overwatch League was a bit different and odd because everybody was playing from instead of LAN in person, they were playing online, and so there were new quirks and things happening. Players who teams that had players who were out of the country, some of the players were playing off of 2000 ping, crazy lag. And Vancouver Titans had one player who plays in the United Arab Emirates, and struggled playing with them because of the lag. Made some serious missteps for them. They actually did pretty well, but they got eliminated in play-ins. Boston, this is the key part of the story about what's going on in playoffs right now. Boston Uprising is the worst team in the league. They had only won 3 games out of all the games they played in this season, which even with the shortened season from COVID-19 meant that they'd played roughly around 20-ish games. Boston.
Okay. Yeah.
So for a fun March Madness type bracket thing for the playoffs, the Overwatch League said we'll put out a $100,000 bounty for a perfect bracket. Everybody submitted brackets. I didn't do it just because I didn't hear about it till later, and I was I don't really your chances of winning a bracket-based contest are minuscule, as anybody who does March Madness will tell you. Mm-hmm. It's fun though, and so I did a play one, just be this is what I think would happen. I would have been boomed already. I would have already been my bracket would have already been busted. However, Boston did something that caused roughly around 95% of brackets to go into to immediately be busted. They beat the Houston Outlaws, which admittedly is not that much of a better team, but certainly should not have lost to the Boston Uprising. The Boston Uprising ended their entire season, including their postseason, with 4 victories, and that's it. So, it is what we got out of that was a massive upset happening. That happened earlier on Friday. Really awesome stuff happening for play-ins. Vancouver and Houston get eliminated, and then in further play-ins, Dallas gets eliminated as well, and so does eventually Boston. So playoffs start happening yesterday. North America games kind of go as expected, with the core exception of, and this is the kind of key exception, is that Decay was a player. So the Washington Justice took the 2019 champion team, San Francisco Shock, who Washington Justice were the worst team last season. This season they struggled a lot at the beginning, but they bounced back and they ended up taking San Francisco Shock to a map 5 and barely lost. It was a nail biter. Over in APAC, Chengdu Hunters got eliminated by my boys, the NYXL. It was a brutal series. came down to the wire, absolute nail biter, gave me several heart attacks. That's what you were saying the tweets were from.
Mm-hmm.
There's been so many upsets and there's been so much stuff going on right now. A lot of people are calling the compositions right now chaos compositions because there's not a single meta. So normally in Overwatch League and other online games, there or other games in general, there becomes a meta, like the most efficient composition of players and roles being performed. And normally what happens is that you either are playing the meta or you're playing off the meta to try to counter the meta. Which is, ranges, its success ranges greatly. But most of the time people just end up playing the meta, and there is no meta right now. We do not have a standard meta. Dive, which is a composition built off of really fast maneuvering heroes moving into a single target, diving on top of them to kill them, and then moving out before they can get punished by the enemy team. That's viable. Roadhog, which is a hero that has not been viable in the Overwatch League for a long time, like a long, long time. He has now that character now has a starring role in a lot of strategies. Whether it's the Hog and Ball torture, which is the Wrecking Ball and Hog as your tanks, or a Hog Zarya, or a Hog Diva even. But we're seeing a lot of different stuff happening right now, and there's not a single solid best way to play right now, and so it's causing a lot of chaos, which is awesome.
Just to interject, yeah, I was gonna say what in your estimation is preferred? Is it more fun when there's a meta and you kind of know what to expect, or is it more fun when there's chaos like this and anybody can kind of come up with a different strategy?
I love both for different reasons. The chaos one I love because it's exciting. It gets your adrenaline running because all of a sudden you're seeing somebody play Roadhog and you're like, why are they playing that? And then you see how much of a difference Roadhog is as such a counter to a lot of DPS and support heroes being played. And you realize, oh, that's why they're doing it. There's also a big part of it is also, but so on the flip side of that, when people do play, there's a solid meta, I like it because it shows the level of skill that the professional players have, because you see them play these heroes that they've practiced dozens of hours on. And so you see their mental fortitude and capability to play these heroes, and sometimes it's really impressive to see a player fill in a role for a hero that they've never really been known for before, or be known to play before, and it's really impressive to see them grow and grind and get so good at a hero that they're normally not very good at, and it's awesome to see. So I like both, but we rarely, if ever, get this sort of chaos composition scenario. This is the first time I think that we've actually had it. So it's great.
What's causing it? Is it just that they're the characters themselves, I guess Blizzard has done such a good job balancing things that there's no clear, straightforward this is the best option for people? Is that what's happening?
Arguably, yes. Also, it's so big thing that threw a lot of wrenches into how people play the game is something called Hero Pool. Hero Pool is a new role-centered hero ban system where a rotating group of heroes, a tank, a support, and 2 DPS heroes, are banned. So we had constant quasi shifts in the meta that also sometimes accompanied patch updates.
Mm-hmm.
And so you saw a lot of variation, a lot of alteration in kind of approaches this season. Because of that, I don't think that there was ever long stretches, periods of time where a meta would get firmly established outside of a few instances. May Reaper was pretty dominant for the first, I'd say, half of the league, and then moved into other situations. But because of that constant rotational setup, you like there was almost no point in grinding just one hero. You kind of had to start versatiling yourself. Um, and like it's really been a really cool thing. But on
Hmm.
top of that, you have but on top of all of this, you have um, like because of where things are, because players like there are teams that prefer certain strategies over others. They just do. They perform them better. They like those heroes better. They're comfort picks. Like they just do better, regardless of what kind of the normal meta is. That being said, I think it really just comes down to not a lot of practice put on a single meta, but also on top of that, things are balanced pretty okay right now. Um, ult economy is more important than ever, which is surprising because it actually feels like it's more important than it was during Goats. Um, Goats was like the problem with Goats, which was the infamous 3 tanks, 3 supports before they implemented role lock to keep people playing DPS characters. Um, was this concept and idea that uh, there was a series of ultimates that you used in certain order to win a fight and then win the map, and that's just how it went. So it was actually like a really boring, like it was if you it was boring for most people. I liked it because I was able to see a lot of the intricacies and differences between teams and how they approach things, and like there's just a little bit of differences that were there for a lot of different like particular moments. I would say that it helped me understand and refine better my knowledge of positioning and like why you need superior positioning, why rotation is so important. Like things change to develop different parts of these skill sets of players, and players who aren't able to adapt usually falter and fall out. But it's overall right now it's at a point where I think Overwatch we're getting some of the best Overwatch we've ever seen. Just absolutely some of the best Overwatch we've ever seen. We're seeing things like the Washington Justice, a team that on paper shouldn't be taking the championship team from last year, San Francisco Shock, to a map 5 and almost clutching it out and winning it. But we did see that. We
I
have
mean,
seen, yeah.
it sounds like especially given like, when did this new kind of rule implementation where like random players or random characters are getting kind of banned from
So
the competition? When did that
that
start?
that started this season at the very beginning.
Okay. So yeah,
I will say
cause
that also that is not being. There's no hero pool for playoffs. Everything's
okay.
everybody can play anything.
Okay. Well, because I would say like it certainly seems like teams were built because this person is the best at playing Mei or this person is the best at playing I'm completely blanking on other characters, Reaper. And when they're forced to diversify outside of that, maybe other players kind of step to the forefront as like, oh, this person isn't the best at anything, but they're the like in the top 5 of these couple characters, and so that makes them a stronger asset to a team than just being the best of one or something like that.
That is accurate. That is
Yeah.
100% accurate. We have seen a lot of players have picked up what a lot of people call specialists for the season. It's interesting. A big controversy this season has been shout out to Andy Cortez, but I'm about to talk about the Dallas Fuel and not be so nice about like their situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Dallas Fuel had one of the best DPS like players in the league named Decay. Um, he was a trade from the Los Angeles Gladiators before the season started. Uh, from the get-go, it sounds like he clashed with management at Dallas. He was not known for clashing with management at LA. There were not any like rumors or like he never like caused problems in LA. So him having problems in Dallas follows kind of like a narrative that Dallas, um, they don't have the best support for whatever reason for their Korean players, or they recruit these Korean players and then like the differences in ideology of how to play and practice Overwatch kind of come into effect and like it causes problems. Um, Decay is one of the more recent Korean players who left the team. He was all but like kind of released. There's been some controversy coming out with former teammates of his saying that like he held the team hostage, like he didn't play scrims. Excuse me, sorry. Or that he threw scrims, like scrim matches, not caring about them. And this is definitely coming from like a former teammate who like definitely feels frustrated that they got booped out of the tournament or by the finals by a former team member who got so like Dallas basically dropped him. Washington came in and picked his contract up on the cheap and basically bought his contract out for Dallas for pretty cheap. And then brought him in, and he has over the last few weeks really flourished on the Washington Justice. He is one of the best Zarya players in the world, and so him coming in has given a new fresh life along with a lot of other players, Janu and Stitch and other former members of the Vancouver Titans who got released in that debacle earlier this year. They got picked up by Washington Justice. And so Decay is playing with some like really amazing players. Washington Justice has like built themselves towards the end of the season an incredibly solid team. They're in the loser bracket for the playoffs right now, but there's a good chance that they could run the gambit through the losers bracket in the playoffs and end up being one of the top teams for North America at this point. Like that's very realistic for them right now. Like it, just no joke. Like this is a possibility for them. Then you have you have other things going on right now. So Decay leaves Dallas Fuel. Washington plays Dallas Fuel in the play-ins, and they knock Dallas out of the play. Like basically keep them from being able to enter the playoffs. It's brutal. It feels terrible for any Dallas fan, as they will be more than happy to tell you, or maybe not want to talk about it. Seeing a player like they let go for various reasons. I don't think that either side was probably like quote unquote the good guy. Usually when it comes down to this, it's a matter of issues between just personalities and sports ideology. And like that can happen sometimes, and sometimes the best move is to kind of move that player off if they're not doing what management wants them to do, because it creates conflict. So even though like he's an incredible player and like his departure caused a lot of frustration for a lot of fans, and a lot of analysts, but I mean at the end of the day, it is what it is, and it's so interesting to see that. Let's see. Oh, so anyway, basically the way that the playoffs are going to work is North America games are going on right now. Am I keeping an eye on the box scores right now as we record? Maybe. Right now it is the let me pull this up and refresh it here because I don't know if Los Angeles Gladiators and Florida Mayhem are playing in the losers bracket right now, which is wild. Florida Mayhem is up 2 maps over LA Gladiators, and they just might knock the LA Gladiators out for the rest of their season. Good chance of that right now. So, good Overwatch is getting played. I would say there's not really any super poor performance from any member of any team. No team is bad. That is in the playoffs this year. There are no bad teams. Bad teams got knocked out during the play-ins. That's just how it is. But man, no. Overwatch League is just. Let me just put a final note on it. Overwatch League is awesome, and I love it. And I'm so happy that they were able to bounce back from just the god-awful nastiness that happened because of COVID this year. So.
Well, I'm glad it is keeping you entertained in the wee hours of the morning. Because yeah, like I said, I saw, since I have like notifications on, like Twitter notifications on for pretty much everybody from the site. I kept getting like notifications from you. I wasn't like checking them. I was just seeing like Cam tweeted blah 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 blah, and it wasn't until like the third or fourth one came through. I was like, God, what is Cam like? Because the first couple I saw, I just thought something you and I had talked about recently is like, how much our sleep schedules get screwed up in between jobs or something like that. And so I was like, God, yeah, Cam's sleep schedule really is screwed up if he's just this active and tweeting this much at 2 a.m. or whatever. And then I actually started looking at the tweets. So I was like, oh, it's an Overwatch thing. And it's apparently Overwatch games that are happening like right now. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense for, where they're probably being played or whatever. And so yeah, I was just like, okay, well, I'm glad it's keeping you entertained there. I very much when I realized we were going to be kicking the show off with this, I was like, this is 2 weeks in a row where I'm just kind of like super out of my element in sports stuff with all the hockey talk from last week, and then going into to Overwatch League here this week. But I appreciate that we were able to at least have that interesting back and forth about like, what's better, meta or no meta? So
Yeah.
very cool. I'm glad it's keeping you engaged. Before I really dive into my thing, actually, I want to we'll close with mine, I guess, because I think kind of bundling your next couple together might be interesting, or at least just kind of like let's talk about both of them, because you've also been playing Hyperscape and Spellbreak, a pair of new to new-ish battle royales out there in the gaming space. So talk to me about your experiences with both of them. Did you play Hyperscape during the beta or anything like that?
No, because the beta was all on PC, and that's been an odyssey.
A hellscape for you. Yeah.
That's been an odyssey. Like, there's really no other ways to describe it other than it's been a hellscape of an odyssey. Yeah, no, that's no. So I didn't play the beta because it was PC only. So I think I'll start off with Spellbreak. Cool. I have not actually played a full match in Spellbreak because I don't want to play with a squad. Solo unlocks tomorrow. I'll be interested in playing that's Monday, September 7th. If you're listening at a later point in time, that will be out, and I'll try it then. I mean, heck, I'd try duos over squad if I had to. I like playing solos. Like, I like playing Battle Royale solos because games go quicker. There's usually, like, not a second chance. Warzone's the core exception, but even then. Like, it's really, really fun. I love playing solo-wise in Battle Royale games. So I did not play... but I did play through the entire tutorial and a lot of the practice stuff. I like the way Spellbreak feels. It feels good. It feels like spells because of the way they operate and the way so in Spellbreak you are basically a mage going through Battle Royale style combat and over the time you pick up items that help your stats, you pick up health potions, or like shield wards, things like that to help regenerate your stuff, your health and shields. And then there's also gauntlets that you wear that let you wield spells. And I don't know if you always have to have the fire gauntlet on. I don't think so. I think that was just during the practice round that I was playing. But there is fire, ice, earth, lightning, poison, and wind. And all of them are pretty good. Like, they're all like versatile-wise, versatile-wise, I would say. It has a large range of applications, and you can do some combos with certain spells that I was still discovering, so it's very, very cool. Like it a lot, but I need a solo mode. And on the flip side of that, Hyperscape, I will say, has awesome gameplay flow. I probably played like maybe 8 to 10 matches last night. Alone, just doing solo, and I had a fun time, but this is the thing. This is the one reason why I don't like Fortnite. And it's the reason why I actually uninstalled Hyperscape. The shooting doesn't feel good.
Okay.
Um, like Spellbreak, you're flinging spells, your accuracy is important, but uh, Hyperscape, like they have really cool gun designs. The world is awesome. Traversing in that world is super cool and fun. A lot of the quote unquote hacks or powers that you can pick up in the game are super useful. It's great. Like it's a lot of really great stuff, but actually shooting the guns doesn't feel good, and that sucks.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it sucks. It's a cool game. It's just like everything about the game is cool as hell. Whether it's like little brief snippets of lore that I was able to find, whether it was like just there's so much about what we saw going on, like that's going on in that game that's so cool. But like it is what it is. Like if the game doesn't feel fun to shoot, like that's where I'm at.
Is it just like it feels too heavy to like what? Because like I was like, who's the developer on this? And it's Ubisoft Montreal, most recently probably and best known recently for Rainbow Six Siege, which by
feels great.
Most accounts feels great and is a great shooter. Certainly different like mentalities and whatnot behind them, but it seems like weird that hey, this studio with a good shooter pedigree couldn't get the feel right for you.
And here's the thing, I think and this is part of where my problem's coming from, there is something about Rainbow Six Siege that is so particular about the way guns move, guns are used, like the way that it's done and played is very different than Hyperspace. Hyperspace, you are moving around a lot. You are jumping, you are leaping, like you're trying to do a lot of these things. In Rainbow Six Siege, if you ran around and jumped around, you get killed you get killed very quickly. Rainbow Six Siege is all about positioning, taking smart shots, like knowing your surroundings, having a lot of spatial awareness, in these areas that are like somebody could be hiding around any corner. And it can be like very, very intense. And the gameplay, as far as shooting wise goes, there's a lot of feeling of that tension while you're playing and fighting in Rainbow Six that is not here in Hyperscape. And I think the reason for that is the way that you jump around, the way that you leap, the way that you use powers and things like that. It's totally it totally disrupts the flow of shooting, which normally wouldn't be a problem. Like other games do that, but the shooting just does not feel solid enough normally when these things happen for it to like keep going. I think that there's a lot of really cool system stuff in Hyperscape. Rather than finding like green or blue weapons, you usually just find another version of the same weapon you have, but you fuse them together to make a better version of it. Mm-hmm. And so you're trying to find like the same, like if you really like a set of weapons that you have, you're trying to find the same weapon so that you can fuse it and upgrade it. So hopefully, like when you fight people later on, you have the best version of that weapon and you can wipe them out a lot more easily. I placed fourth in a round where I did not go around picking up items that were similar to mine to upgrade them. And when it came time to actually kind of face people face to face, I was outgunned and outclassed because I was sitting around sniping at people with a weak sniper rifle. So, like it is what it is. But I still made it to fourth place. So it's that trade-off.
I remember watching a little bit of Hyperscape during the beta, and just like looking at it and just being like, "Yep, I am too old for these kinds of games," because like either a mix of like my eyesight or my reaction time, I was just like just watching, I was like, I feel like I can't even keep track of the action, and like these people would be on me and killing me before I even know where it's coming from. And the action seemed so frenetic and chaotic that I was just like, I don't have nearly good enough aim to be able to deal with like people jumping all over the place and doing their double jumps and hitting those ramps and or the bounce things or whatever. So I was just like, yeah, this game is not like most battle royales aren't for me anyway, but like this one just also definitely not for me. And I think, was just like I just wouldn't like. I like some of the new ideas that it brings to it. Like I like its version. I like it how it breaks away from it's a big bubble that's just going to close in on you. Like I like their approach to that, where it's the different territories on the map like dissolving away, and you just kind of have to like escape through them. But also like you're not like, because I don't think you're dying as you go through them, are you? Or so much as like it slows you down, so it makes you a much easier target.
It
right?
slows you down. The only time I've ever been caught outside of it, I was engaging with 2 other people in a firefight when it happened. So I lost health. I don't know if I lost health when I was down there.
Gotcha.
I got out of there very quickly though, and like.
I mean, I guess it's got to like eat your health away at some point, because otherwise people would just be like sitting in there and just be like, well, I'm just gonna play out the game here while other people fight and stuff. So I'm sure it is, and I just didn't like pay that close attention.
That's the thing. It could be totally fine that way. I really enjoy the way that derezzing the like sectors goes. I like the way that the sectors are kind of built and put together, can be randomized. It just makes it very fun. Like Hyperscape, honestly, if it had better feel of of gunplay, I think I'd be super into it. But there's just not enough weight to. And a lot of problems I have with it is it feels like the gunplay is a little floaty. Like it's just not tight enough. It's not heavy enough. Like it's like you're anticipating like a sway of movement, and you just don't get that with the guns when you like drop down or you try to do something. You just kind of like it just kind of stays there stagnant, and you can't really move it very easily instead. There's a lot of like small critique things that honestly keep this game from being a game that I'm gonna keep playing. It won't be worth my time. I'm not gonna start enjoying the shooting in it, but it is the game has a lot going for it. Still, if they can refine some of the shooting aspect of it, I think that this would definitely be a top battle royale game. But with the game, because here's part of the problem: you can be a super cool game, but if you either A, don't capture like the youth demographic the way Fortnite did. Like Fortnite has gotten away with having really shoddy like gunplay for a long time. But they do it because it's like the Fortnite format does very well. And has done very well, and they keep doing things to keep it fresh at the expense of like whatever kind of professional league they were, or like professional esports they wanted to have around it. You can't, the day of a tournament, you can't introduce planes the day of a tournament. People haven't been practicing with those. But Epic does it.
Oh, I remember, yeah, I was gonna say, I remember like the few times I like tuned into like tournament stuff back when I went through my brief Fortnite phase. Like one of them, it was while the cube was like making its way around the map, and I remember like gravity completely changed on everybody, and people had no idea how to handle it, and because like the final circle like ended up in the gravity bubble or whatever, and people were just floating and shooting, and chaos was reigning, and like players got super pissed, and they basically added an extra like round of play and turned that stuff off, because it was like, well, yeah, if everybody's playing for like $100,000, it's kind of crap that we dropped this new thing on them that they had never seen before.
Yeah,
and in the middle of that competition.
This happened.
Whereas, and I love that. I love that, because I look at Fortnite, I'm like, that whole game is built around like chaos. How so absolutely like that. Like, give me more of that kind of stuff. Versus like, yeah, and so I going back to like our meta conversation from the Overwatch chat, like I would absolutely prefer like the chaos mode versus like everybody's playing the same way and you're just trying to figure out who plays it better, or who has like the best day today. It's like, hey, throw chaos in there, and that, I mean, it's why I love Fall Guys as much as I do, probably, is because like there is absolutely just reigns of chaos in Fall Guys that make that game fun and engaging and incredibly infuriating at times. So
Sure. But they're not dropping the Infinity Sword into like a Fall Guys level that has $100,000 attached to it.
right.
Like, or Infinity Blade rather. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
So where are you kind of falling on like the battle royale rankings? Like is Warzone kind of top tier for you? Is Apex up there? Like what? Like
I have.
if you were
Yeah.
with the opportunity, because I know you, like you certainly more than me, obviously, but more than a lot of people I know, like bounce between a lot of them, and we'll connect for this, and you'll just be like, oh, I've been playing some Warzone, and be like, oh, I didn't even know you played Warzone or something, or like, so like the fact that you came today with like, hey, you played 2 different battle royales in the last week, I'm curious kind of your take on like which ones are the top tier at the moment.
So Warzone, without a doubt, is top tier. I know PUBG is still super popular in China and Korea. It's fallen off really.
Yeah, I'm not. I guess I'm not asking for like which ones are doing really well, because I'm sure I could. I mean,
Okay.
like Fortnite is still doing super well. I know that. I'm just saying, like for you, which ones are your favorites?
Right now, I'd say my favorites are Warzone. I have just like I'm trying to think if there's anything else out there right now that I would say. Like I'll wait to see how Spellbreak plays. Like I'll probably get into it whether it's squad or solo within the next couple of days. Like I'll get to it, but right now I think just Warzone's kind of it for me right now.
Okay.
It satisfies a really good itch, and its Gulag lets you kind of have a second chance as a solo player, where you're not really relying on a team or a squad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just because I hate playing battle royale games with randos. I hate it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I digress. Like so, right now Warzone's really the top tier that I'm playing right now. We'll see how it goes. Well, that and Fall Guys. Fall Guys is technically a battle royale game.
Yeah. That's obviously like the one that I give my my kind of a word to there. Although I with the Avengers coming out this week, I stepped, like yesterday I think was the first day I just didn't even play Fall Guys at all. Or no, I played it. Yesterday was like the first day I didn't get a win in Fall Guys, because I played like 5 or 6 games, some of them being like the worst games I've had in weeks, where like I got knocked out of, like I completely blanked and gotten knocked out of a round of perfect match just because I was standing on the wrong spot or something, like, and it was just like, why, how did that, what? And then like the very next round I just like ran off the map on rollout. I was like, what is going on? Have I just completely failed and forgotten how to play this game? But yeah, I was just kind of like, well, whatever. I'm just going to go back to playing Avengers. How you doing with Fall Guys? Have you been sticking with that one, or is that one just kind of like, huh?
It's in my rotation. I play it.
Yeah, are you still doing like, you're limiting yourself to like 3 games a day or something?
Yeah, roughly so. Like, maybe I'll play a few more, maybe I won't. Like, it depends.
Okay.
Like the addiction factor is not there for me right now. Like I would expect it to be, but that's just because of everything else going on in my life. Like, I can't justify having like 6-8 hour gaming sessions right now when I need to find a job.
That's fair. Did you, because we haven't talked about it, are you excited for season 2 Fall Guys being
Yes.
like medieval themed and castles and stuff? Yeah.
I'm very
I
excited
look
for
forward
the
to.
elevated aspect of what this next one's going to look like. A lot of the games look like they're based off of needing to work with people at first and then trying to screw them over later.
Yeah. That's I don't think I had thought about it too much, but especially in light of seeing that, I was like, it made me realize just how often like I go I go from a game of fall ball where like me and a team of like 5 people are working together, and then immediately into like a royal fumble where it's every man for himself. It's like, these people were my teammates. These people just helped me like carry to victory, and now I'm now I'm out to get them. And then at the flip side, sometimes it's like, these people sucked in fall ball. I'm the one that scored the goals. I hope I can get the tail away from these guys, because screw these guys, they all suck. Yeah, I'll be curious to see how that plays out, like within a round, I guess. as maybe it looked like some of those things hinted towards. Because yeah, like when that came out, I was like, how many more days do we have in season 1? Because I was already at level 40, and I've already got a handful of crowns just kind of like sitting in reserve or whatever. And I was like, it was like 37 days to go, and I was like, God damn it! So there's very little. Like most of my store these days is just like coming soon, because I've just bought so much of everything else. So I'm like, all right, well, the reason I was trying to get like a win yesterday was because I had like 9 crowns. I was like, if I can get that 10th, I can go ahead and buy the full Chell set that they had out there, and I just couldn't lock in the 10th win. So I was like, all right, screw it, I'm just going back to Avengers. Chell is the first of the legendary skins that I hadn't gotten, and I was like, that's whatever, that's fine. I don't like it's for me. It has reached that point of like, I'm not, this isn't. It was a great game for like when I didn't have anything else to play, but now that I have other things to play, I will, check in on Fall Guys, but then I will bounce out if need be. Because yeah, fun, but chaos, and sometimes chaos can be incredibly infuriating. Yeah. Any final thoughts on the Battle Royale side of things?
No, I think I'm pretty much tapped out on that. So.
All right. Well, then we will dive over into my area of like what I've been doing the last week in playing a bunch of Marvel's Avengers. So Marvel's Avengers officially came out Friday, but Square Enix has been doing this thing since I think one of the Deus Ex games. I remember writing about it back with one of the Deus Ex games, where it's like, hey, if you pre-order, you'll get 3 days early access or whatever. And I was like, that's a stupid thing. That's annoying that like you're basically charging you like $20 for an extra 3 days of play or something like that. But since I was getting the Avengers Collector's Edition anyway, I was like, whatever. I appreciated that getting a physical version, they were like, hey, you can go pick it up in the store on Tuesday. And I was like, cool, all right. So I got like a few days extra
Nice.
with Avengers. So been playing Avengers. I've beaten the campaign. I got and I've been kind of like circling through all of the characters. Minor spoilers in that, like, of course Cap is playable. Outside of the beta tutorial kind of sequence, of course they were going to bring him back. I'm not going to get into how they bring him back or anything like that, but he's the first character that I got to level 50 in the game. I got that last night, but I've been like circling through kind of all the other characters, and just kind of like it is a very weird game because there's a lot to like about it and there's a lot to hate about it. So far, I've really only played the single-player stuff, which I appreciate that it like just brings in, my other party members as bots. But the game also, especially in the post-game stuff or post-like campaign stuff, it definitely feels like the game is scaled to multiplayer, and it is not scaled well for single-player stuff at times. Just like a prime example is like, hey, if you're playing single-player, you get 3 lives, and then you have to like restart. Like your bot friends can come and revive you twice, but then if you die a third time, it's quote unquote game over, and you have to reload the last checkpoint, which sometimes is just like, okay, I've got to walk through an empty corridor into the next room, but then other times it's like, okay, well, now I've got to go back to like, I'm back at the beginning of the this area, and I've got to run 600 meters to get to like the next place that I was at or something. So it's one of those things where I just constantly look at it, I'm like, game overs aren't fun. Game overs are a holdover from the time where game overs got people off of arcade machines or got people to put more money into arcade machines. And when you're playing at home, like there's nothing to be gained from a game over in this game, especially in comparison to like a Destiny, where it's like, okay, if you if you die in a respawn restricted area or something, it's certainly a lot quicker to get back into things than it is in this, which is one of the most infuriating aspects of the game over state in Avengers, is just the load times are absurdly annoying and long, and yeah, you just don't get right back into the action like you would want to. But like the combat is fun. Like there are elements of pretty much each of the 6 characters that you control in the game so far that I enjoy. Like each one has a very different kind of combat style. My Cap is probably one of my favorites, hence why I've got him up to level 50 already. But like even my weakest characters or something are probably still like level 25 or 30 or something like that. And to give you a sense of like that in the grand scope of the game, I will say there is a trophy for beating the game, obviously, or the main campaign, and then there's a trophy for getting 4 of your party members to level 5. And I got the trophy for beating the game before I got the trophy for getting like 4 of my party members to level 5. So I had the fact that like my weakest characters now are level 20 or 25 or something like that means I've just been playing a lot of the post game content, and I've been swapping out the characters because each of your characters has dailies to do, and the dailies are working towards a season pass that basically like unlocks new character designs or like in-game currency or stuff like that. And so that's been fun. The weekly reset was supposed to happen like on Sundays, but and so like when the time ticked over yesterday, I was like, why didn't my weeklies reset? And I saw a whole bunch of people otherwise complaining about that online. And then I was like, oh, well, technically most people have probably only had the game for 3 days, and it'd be kind of a dick move if they had only gotten like those 3 days for that weekly. So that makes sense that it's this first weekly is like the 9 days or longer for those of us that played in advance. But yeah, it's fun. There are definitely some elements that are getting really repetitive, but I'm still having a good time with it. It's a fun game. It's pretty much what I expected in that like this is a game I will enjoy the story. I will keep playing to get like my characters through kind of all of their level progression and get all the skill points unlocked and stuff, and probably get everybody to level 50. And I, because as I'm still doing it, I'm still getting like post game scenarios and post game like objectives, like post game story stuff. And then I will probably bounce off just like I did with Destiny. And I will like check back in when new character things unlock or something like that, when there are new story elements to explore in the game. But yeah, it is a very mixed bag of a game because there's a lot of great stuff, and then there are just a lot of tedious things I hate about it. Like the faction quest givers or faction reward givers are like on like the complete other side of the map when you load into a space, and you just have to slowly walk all the way over to them if you want to get your rewards, or and then you have to slowly walk all the way back because there isn't the Destiny like hey, you can just go straight to a planet from the menu or something like that, or you can go to space from the menu. You have to go back to the the deck of the ship to load up the map or something like that. It's just like why did they think that's fun? Like so lots of dumb little things like that. Is Avengers anything you were at all interested in hopping into, Cam? Nope. Yeah.
After seeing people play it, I'm like, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah.
If people enjoy it, they want to play it, go for it. Otherwise, I'm done. I'm good.
The from a gameplay perspective, one of the comparisons I made was it very much feels like The Division 2. In that it's there are missions, but then there's just random things in the world to do that'll unlock chests or something like that. So it very much feels like Division 2, but instead of a shooter, it's a brawler. And then from a narrative stance, one of the gripes about the game is that people are going to launch at it is like, from a narrative stance, there are 3 Marvel villains of note in this game: Abomination, Taskmaster, and MODOK. And it's like, okay, well, clearly they're going to like use other villains in additional content down the line. Like other story missions are going to open up, and that's when Thor fights Loki or something like that. And so it's like, cool. In a year's time, this will be a much more fleshed out kind of game and a lot more fun. For Marvel fans. And until then, it very much feels like the analog I made in my own head, like either yesterday or this morning, was like the combat and the people you're fighting in this game very much feels like the opening fight of Age of Ultron, where it's like, yeah, technically, like, the guys that they were going after had, like, names and were, figures from the comics, but mostly it's pretty much, like, completely forgettable. Like, you're just going after a whole bunch of nameless grunts. You're gonna, beat up a whole bunch of people on the way, and you're gonna smash some things, or you're gonna break some stuff to get to finish your objective and stuff. And it's fun. Like I said, the gameplay and how each of the characters kind of feels, while heavier and slower than I would like, still feels fun, especially in combat. It's like they feel slow when you're having to, move across a big open map, and, it takes a minute to get from point A to point B, when it's like, it'd be way cooler if it was like 15 seconds to get from point A to point B. Even like, flying as Tony in the Iron Man suit or something feels slower than I would like. But it's still fun. It's a good time. I'm not bored with it yet, but I can see myself eventually just getting bored with it. I'm supposed to sit down with Logan at some point, and he and I'll hop in. But I basically had to give Logan the heads up, like, I beat the campaign mode, in the first couple days or whatever. And that's really when, like, multiplayer missions open up. So I basically gave Logan the heads up of, like, hey, you'll have to play through some of the game, like, certainly he and I could hop in and do some of, like, his story missions with, like, me as his partner instead of the AI, I think. But there are other missions in there where it's like, hey, you're gonna have to do this section alone, so I have no idea what it would do for me if I'm playing with you. So it's interesting how it very much feels like two games in one, that they just tried to, like, I heard the Kind of Funny guys talk about, like, Frankensteining it together. It's like, yeah, that's very much what it feels like it is. There are elements of it that are a great first-person game, and there are elements of it that are a great multiplayer game, but when those elements come in conflict with one another is where, like, a lot of the game's biggest pain points tend to be. But I really like the story, at least. That's one thing I should give kudos to and applause to, is centering it around Kamala is a really good, choice. It's one that seems to have taken a lot of people by surprise, but I feel like I've assumed, at least for a long time, that this was pretty much going to be the story of Kamala bringing the Avengers together. From, like, one of those very, like, her first reveal trailer was basically like her getting Bruce to go talk to Tony. So I was like, okay, it seems like that's going to be the trajectory for the story, is that, like, the Avengers have broken up, and Kamala's the hope for the world that needs to bring them back together. And I performances are great across the board. Everybody's, knocks it out of the park in their roles. One of the things that I also like is, like, the realization that, yes, you can pay money to, get extra credits that will help you buy cosmetics and stuff, like, quicker. But if you play the game a ton, I don't think anything is locked behind, like, actually paying the money.
Interesting.
The Destiny equivalent would be, there's bright dust and then there's silver, right? Like, there's effectively a silver in this, but you can get silver by opening chests in the world. You won't get much for each chest. You'll get, between 6 and 30, I think, is what I've seen. Kind of, and I don't remember what their units, I think, is what they're called in this game. You'll get those, and, like, a legendary. You'll get 6 to 30 units per, chest you open in the world, and I picked up a legendary cosmetic costume for my Hulk, which is the like, Hulk in a pinstripe suit that I tweeted out the other day, and that costs 7,000 units. So, like, I had enough just from playing the game, and, like, certain missions and stuff will give you, like, more. You'll get, like, 100 or 200 here or there or whatever. So units are one of the currencies, and then there is, like, another, like the paid currency that can also be used, and it'll be like, oh, instead of 7,000 units, it's 1,400 of these credits or whatever, and you get the credits through the in-game battle pass kind of thing. And I believe what was said was that while the new characters that you get added to the game will be free and anyone can play as them, the battle passes tied to those characters, or challenge passes or whatever they're called in this, those will cost like 1,000 of those credits. But playing the game as Cap, if I go through and like max out his 40 level battle pass or whatever, I think I'll get 1,400 credits by doing that. So like you get more than enough to like pay for the next round of characters or whatever. And given that like the game includes the battle passes of all 6 of your main characters, like there's plenty in there, meaning I don't have to spend another dime on the game. I just have to play it a lot if I really want to get those cosmetics, and have the patience for whenever the vendor is going to have them, I guess. So yeah, it's like the monetization is like kind of skeezy in how they're doing some of it, I guess. But like it's what we've kind of seen is like, hey, you can get this stuff by playing the game, or if you want to get it quicker, or if you want to be able to like pick and choose what you get, here you can pay for it, and here's a currency that'll give you that kind of option. It's like, whatever. I have not felt compelled to go in and spend the actual money. Maybe in part because like I checked like that on the first day to see like what are they trying to sell me, if not other characters. And it was like up to a $99 for however many credits kind of account thing, and I was like, nope, that's gross.
Yeah.
I already paid too much for the collector's edition of this game, but whatever. Now I've got like a novelty little Hulk bobblehead, so I will enjoy the crap out of that eventually. So yeah, I'm enjoying Marvel's Avengers. I look forward to seeing how it feels playing with other people when Logan is kind of up and running to that point. And yeah, that's I think my kind of top level impressions on the game. Any questions or anything anything I can answer from you, Cam?
No.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what I would expect out of it. It's just not going to be the game for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's
fair.
totally fine. I said it back when a lot of the reviews were coming out. A lot of people were like, there was a lot of people who liked it, a lot of people who didn't like it. I look at it this way: if you're having fun with this game, if you enjoy it, enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just not it's not going to be for me, which is crazy because if you had told me a year ago or 2 years ago, hey, the Crystal Dynamic Avengers game is going to be service based, I would have been like, oh, I'm so stoked. I'm just like, games as a service is something that I think I'm very particular about what I like about it and what I don't like. And there's not enough for me to justify pre-ordering it or buying it even before I lost my job. But on top of that, like now it's like that's a good way of a good excuse, but the reality is that I just don't want to play it.
Yeah. There is a crap ton of lore in there, though. I got some trophy for like, oh, I've unlocked 50 intelligence reports or something like that, and that's basically like all the little dossiers and stuff that you can collect on people or kind of like backstory little moments. A-Day is the big event that kind of kicks off the game, where the big catastrophe happens and basically blows up San Francisco. And there are, intelligence dossiers that are basically like, hey, here's the Avengers, at the Senate hearings after A-Day kind of trying to explain what happened or, defend themselves and say, like, this is why the Avengers should still exist. It wasn't our fault that this, thing happened. We did what we could to, say that we were under attack and all that. And so there's things like that. Kamala has like fan fictions, like some of her stories are kind of like detailed in in those, and then just like other interpersonal like character moments and stuff are fun little intelligence things. So yeah, it's definitely has a lot of collectibles and a lot of fun stuff in there as well that are at least for the moment keeping me coming back. The thing that I'm enjoying right now, apart from just doing the kind of post game campaign story stuff that's still being kind of trickled out, is I'm enjoying hopping in, figuring out what the dailies are, and just kind of like going through and being like, okay, I need to, with Cap's shield, I need to, take out 15 enemies with ranged attacks or something like that with Cap. So, let me hop in, do a mission or two to knock that out. And then let me switch over to Black Widow and see what I have to do for her. Oh, I have to use her ultimate ability and kill 20 people while, using the ultimate ability. Okay, I can do that. Or, Kamala, it'll be like, hey, get 500 experience points with this faction, which you can do either through like the daily faction challenges, or you can do it like, if you free people in the open world or something like that, you'll get 50 experience points towards that faction or something like that. So I'm enjoying like hopping through, and then each of those dailies adds 3 points to the battle pass, and for every 5 points you get, that's when like a new thing unlocks. And then the weekly challenges are like 11 points each. So it's sucks now that I don't have like new weekly challenges to go towards, because those are where like the big moves are made. But it's fun just kind of going through and being like, okay, let's see if I can knock out all 6 characters and do both their dailies each day. And yeah, I'm having a good enough time with it. We will see how long I stick with it, and then versus like when new stuff comes out, how long I hop back into the game for. One of the reasons I kind of want to just like keep going with it really is like so that when Kate Bishop comes out, I can, well, my other characters are all super overpowered or whatever, so I can run around with Kate for a little while, and I don't have to necessarily jump between all the other characters and try and keep that grind going. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to. Especially like I look forward as I think more than most, like the Destiny stuff. When I did hop into it, Destiny feels great to play. I couldn't give a crap about the story of Destiny. So like hopping into this, where I'm like, I'm interested in the story and I'm interested in these characters, even if like combat feels samey or stuff like that. And even that combat doesn't really feel samey. Especially like because you can hop between, like in Destiny, it's like, okay, you're shooting and you have your powers or whatever, but like everything is still mostly shooting based. Here it is, okay, if I'm playing as Cap, how can I use my shield to, be a ranged fighter versus going in and being a brawler or something like that? I can play around with different combat styles. And if I'm not feeling like playing like Cap right now, I can go hop in as Thor, I can hop in as Black Widow, and that completely changes up kind of my approach to enemy encounters and stuff like that. And so I think that's a fun thing. And if the new characters that they kind of keep giving us over the coming year, also all feel really great, it'll be fun to play. But I'm also very interested to see, what they do with the kind of story for those characters and how they introduce Kate Bishop and Clint and when, they introduce Spider-Man in the PlayStation version, at least, how will they do that? So yeah. Those are my Marvel's Avengers thoughts. I will, I think, whenever Logan and I sit down and play with it, I'm sure we will have additional kind of like, here's how it feels multiplayer mode kind of stuff for those impressions as well. But I think that is going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you, Cam, for sitting down on this.
Before we head out, I wanted to make a quick note here.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of people talk about Kamala Khan as a character. They're like, wow, I can't believe that they like first off, do not understand why they talked about Kamala, like marketing led up to this saying like she was like, oh, we added her in, Kamala's gonna be in the story, and then it turns out she's like the main character.
That's like I don't remember that being the narrative from Crystal at all. Like I think that like so much of the early narrative from like the press side of things was built around like, oh, these all look like knockoff MCU Avengers. I think like that just took so much hold that like when Kamala gets introduced, it's like, well, here's somebody you haven't seen in the MCU, so we can at least hang our hat on that, I guess. But yeah, like I feel like, especially after the beta, where like you got to play a mission or two, I was like, oh, that's Kamala. This is very clearly Kamala's story to me, but apparently a lot of people did not pick up on that. So yeah, I guess they could have done like a more overt version of telling that, like, hey, A-Day happened, and this is going to be Kamala Khan's story of bringing the Avengers back together.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, like, you know, it's you don't want to give away the story, I guess. And I don't know if saying that gives too much away of the story. I don't think it does, but yeah, this is very much a Kamala Khan comic. You know, Kamala getting, you know, brought into the Avengers would be the you know, Kamala comic or something like that.
I will say also, a lot of people are like, wow, isn't it great that we're like, it's funny because as somebody who's like followed comics and was super into Marvel comics during like the rise of Kamala Khan, Kamala has been a like adopted in, beloved character in the comic book community. Like, I don't think there's ever been a new character introduction that was so universally loved and praised as her story. Her Miss Marvel run initially, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, like there's the standard headlines about her, like being Muslim, being you know, woman of color, and the response from like the comic book community was great and all, yeah, sure, but like her comic's really good. Like it's incredibly well written. Like if I can recommend anything to anybody out there, read the initial run. Probably continue to keep reading it if you like it. The initial run of Miss Marvel with Kamala Khan's debut is outright phenomenal. Like, it is so good. She's such a great character. The writers they choose for her are always really, really good. Like, she is just an awesome, awesome character, and she's been beloved. And so I saw some people be like, man, I can't believe, like, we're getting this. And it's like, the moment they introduced Kamala Khan, a lot of people were asked, like, a lot of comic book people were asking, well, why isn't she just, like, why isn't she taking the lead? Because she's a much more dynamic character and interesting character than most of the Avengers. Like, she is that well beloved. Like, there are people who love Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, more than they like Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Black Widow, like all of them.
Yeah.
Like, she has a lot of like there are a lot of Miss Marvel Kamala Khan fans. From a lot of people you wouldn't necessarily quote unquote expect it from like the group of people that normally gatekeep for comic books. But they love her. And like I don't recall like ever like and I'm talking about some places that are like where people talk about stuff where they are very sensitive, I guess is the right word, towards
I mean, I saw your tweet that was basically like even 4chan got behind Kamala.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm talking about. Like 4chan's comics board loved, like, that's where I first was introduced to her. This is back in like 2013 or something like that. But like they're like her debut was praised by that board, and it's like I was surprised back then because I was like, this is unprecedented. Like, this is totally unusual. This, like, I would not have expected this here. But she's like, her comic is that good. Like, her initial run is so phenomenal. And it's since then they've just given her nothing but like the best. And she's like hyper popular. Her, like, the Kamala Khan run of Miss Marvel, I feel definitely was inspired, like, was definitely, I think, either intentionally or unintentionally inspired, or at least gave kind of the atmosphere for that Babs Draws led kind of like redone version of Batgirl.
Okay.
There was a series of Batgirl comics that at Babs Draws on Twitter, really awesome artist was kind of like behind on that, and her art was phenomenal for that. But like that kind of atmosphere for kind of like regrounding female superheroes away from like away from a lot of the like world world saving global universal aspects of like comic book superheroing, and which really has not had a lot of good exploration up until I think Kamala Khan's run, Miss Marvel run. You see that a lot with like male superheroes like Spider-Man, or like if you were to ask me like what would I call a quote unquote contemporary of Kamala Khan, I definitely would say it's Spider-Man, like a more grounded, like city-based or like neighborhood-based character. Like that's what I would expect out of it. So her initial run is just phenomenal that way. It's great. Like I love that she's getting her big like quote unquote mainstream breakout success here. People have been like wanting more for this character for a long time, and if people are enjoying the game and it's doing well, awesome. I love seeing that, especially with Kamala Khan. So.
Yeah, it's like seeing people complain and be like, why didn't they put her front and center? It's like, well, because 99% of the audience had no idea who Ms. Marvel was before this. Like they know the Avengers because the MCU has become such a breakout success, so they know all of those characters. But it would have been really hard to be like, hey, here's a Ms. Marvel story, and then people be like, wait, like Captain Marvel? No, different character. Like again, the people who know comics will know, and the people who are willing to do like the slightest little modicum of research will know, or can figure out what those characters are. But trying to trying to mass market to a mainstream audience, a AAA kind of game, you are going to probably bank on like, hey, we're going to let the name recognition of these other characters do a lot of the heavy lifting there. And, we'll sneak in this cool new character for everybody, and they'll get introduced to this person who hasn't been, in the MCU yet, and kind of give you a taste of, another side of the MCU through this story. So, like, I get the frustration around people saying, like, why didn't they market her? But I think it very much just mostly comes down to, like, it makes way more dollars and cents to market the Avengers that everybody knows as opposed to the point of view character that you're going to end up largely playing as throughout this, as you try and bring the Avengers back together. That most people don't know that point of view character. It's the same, I mean, admittedly, like, as much as I love Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, like, it's also easily the worst performing Spider-Man movie because a lot of people don't know Miles Morales, and they weren't interested in that versus like a an animated film version of that character, compared to the Peter Parker that they that has absolutely been dominating the mainstream audience for years, and that's why Peter was basically equal billing in all of the Into the Spider-Verse stuff, even though it was very clearly Miles' story. But it still, didn't move the needle as much as they would like. But at least it's critically beloved, so you got that. But yeah, so back on Marvel's Avengers, yeah, it is absolutely a great Kamala Khan story, and very much has me like. I actually need to go back and like look at the in the Avengers box, because they might have even included like, hey, here's like a 30-day intro thing to Marvel Unlimited or something like that. And if they did, I'll be like, hey, maybe I will go and sit down and check out the Miss Marvel run, or I will check out that much lauded Matt Fraction Hawkeye run, and see what's in store out there. So diving into comics, fun little thing that I don't do all that often, but I'm interested to check it out. So, cool. Any final thoughts then, Cam?
No, that's pretty much it. What a nice week.
Yeah. All right. That's gonna do it for this episode. So thank you, Cam, for sitting down talking about this stuff with me. Let's go around. You got any metaphorical? No, it is a real plug, a metaphorical table. Do you have any plugs, Cam? You can follow Cameron at RevCabot on Twitter. Anything to give a shout out to?
Yes, shout out to my boys the NYXL. They played phenomenal earlier this morning against the Shanghai Dragons. Took him to map 5. Looked like he was going to go to a map 6, which is normally unprecedented. Was real close. I was really worried because Shanghai's been so dominant all season. Seeing us take Shanghai really to their limits to, honestly, outside of like a really bad map on Volskaya, not really making the smart decisions there, I would say that like we have a real chance of really making it through the losers bracket. We'll see how that goes next week, but nothing but love for my NYXL boys and the organization and the other fans out there. And shout out also to Andy Cortez, twitch.tv/Andy Cortez. He actually like hosted the game last night. It was fun, like hanging out in his channel while the game was going on.
Cool. That just reminded me back when was it Boston? You were saying that like had the worst season, and they ended up like breaking a whole bunch of brackets by getting that win in the plans. Right?
I'm not exaggerating.
It was Boston, right?
Yeah, it was Boston. I'm not exaggerating whatsoever. Roughly around 95% of brackets were busted.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, like when you said that, when you were like, yeah, they only like won 3 games in the regular season or whatever, I was like, oh, sounds like they should move from Boston and become the Phoenix, whatever they are. Like, it seems like they're in the wrong area. They should be an Arizona team. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey on Twitter. Nothing really to shout out to me, except for I want to give a shout out to friends William Mullins and Janelle Ortiz, who got married yesterday, and they reached out to me a month ago, saying, "Hey, we're going to be in Phoenix. You come highly recommended from Nikki's wedding a couple years ago. Would you be willing to come and do a little ceremony for us?" So I showed up. Met with them yesterday, and we did a little quick little marriage ceremony, and those two are now formally married. So give some love to them.
This came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it very much did. Their plans were originally going to be, they were originally going to get married back in May, I think. In Chicago, it was going to be a big thing, and then obviously the world kind of like fell apart. So I don't know what prompted them to like finally just say, screw it, we're just going to do a small little intimate thing. But yeah, they like Will reached out a month ago yesterday. I was looking at Twitter DMs, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to do it. I'd be honored to be a part of your day. Here's what you need to do in Arizona, because they live in California, for those that don't know. So here's basically the site to go to get your form if you haven't already done any of this stuff. And he's like, cool, I'll look into it and we'll keep you in touch. And then I heard nothing from them until Friday, after I got off work. I basically was like, hey, it's Labor Day week, like, because they had said like we're gonna be here for Labor Day weekend. I was like, hey, it's Labor Day weekend. Do you guys still need me for this, or did plans change or something like that? And Will was like, yeah, we're sorry, I meant to reach out to you. 9 a.m. Arizona Falls. And I was like, okay, what day? And they're like, oh, tomorrow. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, okay. And then I was like, so do you want like anything special, or do you pretty much just want like, we're gathered here to celebrate these two people. Will, do you? Janelle, do you? Awesome, kiss, and you're married. And he was like, yep, that's pretty much all we're looking for. And I was like, cool, all right, let's knock it out. So it was a small little intimate affair. Nate and Whitney, friends of ours, were kind of we're there as the witnesses, and then Will's parents were also in town for the event.
Well, that's good they were able to make it.
And then they basically FaceTimed other people and recorded. But we were doing it at Arizona Falls, which is like, Arizona doesn't really have much in the way of waterfalls, but it is, for those that don't know, and I had never been there myself. So running through town, basically we have the Salt River Canal. And there's a little stretch of like off of Indian School here in town, between like Scottsdale Road and like 56th Street, I think is where it was. And it's just, hey, instead of like a boring little canal thing, they built like a little waterfall section where the water goes in and it kind of like comes out. It's a little artistic kind of, quote, historical site. And so we performed the thing there. They like, Will found it basically when he was Googling stuff online, I guess. And like, as soon as we walked down there, it's like water just kind of like rushing through, because it's a working canal. And so it's like, okay, well, it's good we're keeping it quiet because nobody can hear me. And so, yeah, even like they FaceTimed in our other friend, Nikki. She texted me. She's like, "Hey, I saw you this morning. Yay! So glad you were able to perform their ceremony." I was like, "Cool. I don't know like if they sent you a video or whatever, but like sorry if you couldn't hear me." She's like, "Yeah, I couldn't hear anything because the water was just like rushing." So it was like Will and Janelle could hear me because we were a couple feet away from each other or whatever. But like even the parents that were sitting 10 feet away or something couldn't hear anything. The people that were recording couldn't hear anything. So it was just like it was just a cute little intimate thing, and so yeah, all the love to them. Shout out to them. I was so humbled and honored to be a part of their special.
So I shouldn't be sad that I wasn't invited. I'm joking.
No,
I'm joking.
No,
I'm joking.
It was very much a like nobody like even. I didn't even want to like post anything about it until like they kind of acknowledged it on some of the social medias and stuff, and so when they started like putting it on Facebook and stuff, I was like, that was when I was like, okay, I feel like I can, put this out there. I hope eventually when things open up, they're able to do kind of what they originally had planned on doing, big party with the family or something like that. But, shout out to them and congrats to them for, whatever made them pull the trigger to say, screw it, we're just going to do a small little intimate thing here in Phoenix. Trevor's like, we know Trevor can do this. He did, cause they were there at Nikki's wedding a few years back. So yeah. And I joked, that if now Nate and Whitney end up somehow using me as the officiant as well, I will have like performed the trifecta of like, kind of funny weddings from people that I met at like beyond 400, years ago or whatever at this point. And because all the 7 of us had hung out at like a place in Glendale, did like a little weekend staycation. Well, for them it was a vacation, but for me it was a staycation a few years back. And so it's like fun that I've now married 4 of those, or like 2 of those 3 couples. So shout out to Will and Janelle. Much love to them.
So much love for them. I made a joke about not being invited. Like when I saw it, I was like, oh, I missed that. I'm like, wait, no. Like between parent, I'm like, there's no way. Like I'm like, I would probably, if they had invited me and if there was gonna be more than 10 people, I probably wouldn't have shown up. I would have had you come to my house and pick up my wedding gift for them. But that would be it.
They invited me out to they were gonna go do like a celebratory like thing afterwards, and I think they were doing like a barbecue today or something like that. And I was like, thank you very much for the invite. I'm still very much in like, hey, I'm trying to avoid like large group things. Like I was there. I performed the ceremony with my the Mario face mask that I actually bought from Janelle's Etsy store. Before they even reached out to me about this, it was just like she'd like plugged it on Facebook or something. I was like, I do need a couple extra masks, and sure, I'll support a friend of mine and get like a fun nerdy design as well. So yeah, it was lovely to be part of their special day.
I'm so happy
and
for
I
them.
wish them
I felt
many happy returns.
I felt so bad when I felt so bad for both them and Whitney and Nate, because this was going to be such a big year for them as for their weddings and everything, and just there's so much that got thrown off and ruined because of COVID-19, and it broke my heart that like these couples aren't able just to like make this final step in their relationship towards like just getting married. Like they found the people that they want to spend the rest of their lives with, and they just can't do it because of these restrictions. So massive shout out to them, to Will and Janelle. They are 2 of the sweetest, most wonderful people in the entire world. That they found each other, that they're together, that they got married, like just warms my heart to the point of like I'm almost crying just thinking about it, because it's just like it's so wonderful that they got to do this. So much love and shout out to them. They're awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, that was the other like big fun eventful thing that happened this weekend. And it was extra funny because like my boss on Friday asked like, hey, do you have any fun plans for the weekend? And I was like, no, just like new game came out. I'm probably going to just spend most of the weekend playing that because I had like almost forgotten that this was a thing. And so like I'm going to go back in on Tuesday and be like, oh yeah, actually I married a couple friends. And I look forward to the confused bewilderment when I get to kind of tell that story. So yes, shout out to Will and Janelle. Much love to them, and I wish them all the best, and thank you for having me. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site on Twitter, or you can go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest in the podcasting space from us. If you liked what you heard, once again, you can rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, and maybe even consider supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite, where every patron gets early access to a monthly bonus episode of this That Nerdy Site show. This month's bonus episode is a more somber one where last week, Jazz and I sat down in the wake of the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman. We kind of talked about that, as well as other celebrities we've mourned, other kind of celebrity deaths we've mourned over the years, and just kind of the weird sensation of that kind of phenomenon that I think we all often go through. So you can check that out, or if not, it'll go live the end of September here for everybody. Thank you again for joining me, Cam. Thank you, audience, for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.